Hey, what's up? Welcome to Fathering Our Future. I'm Anthony Vandegrift, and I'm certainly not the perfect dad, but every day, just like you, I am trying to be a better dad, because this thing that we do as fathers, it is the most fulfilling thing that we are privileged to do in this life. I love it. I want you to love it. And so I want to help you on this fatherhood journey, because you're absolutely essential to your family, to this world. If there were not fathers, there'd be a whole lot of problems. And I think we can even start to see that when we look at children who grow up without dads. We see the complications that they face, and we see the things that they turn to, and we see the struggles that they have. Fathers make a huge difference. So thank you so much for being with me for this episode of Fathering Our Future. I'm going to talk to you about running today. Now, I'm not going to encourage you to go out and run while you listen to this, but you always could. That's not a bad idea. But I'm going to tell you what I think about running and what I think about fathers. I think that good dads run. Now, I want to make this case to you, and I'm going to do it by looking at Luke 15. Now, I know we're not talking about physical running. Some of you may have got excited. Some of you are like, thank God you're not talking about going out and running. It's funny, though. So I used to run quite a bit, and I'm trying to get back into it. Prior to me getting COVID, in August of 2021, I nearly died, but I lost 17 pounds. I just saw a Facebook reminder come up, so that was nice. But maybe the 10 days leading up to me getting COVID, I had logged close to 50 or 60 miles. I was just running all the time, and I was running nearly 6 miles every time I went out to run. Once I got COVID, all that kind of went down the drain. That was tough to get back from, but I did pick it up last week. I only went out and ran twice. Have no idea how far I ran. I just ran for a little bit until I felt pretty good. And I lost 4 pounds after running twice, which made my wife, who is postpartum, quite angry because she's trying to lose weight and it's not melting off like it melted off for me. So I'm going to keep the running thing up. And I know that's kind of the broken record of, I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to say this. You got to make things manageable. You got to trust the process. You grow into things slowly. I don't want to make the mistake of saying I'm going to run 10 miles every day for the rest of my life, knowing that at some point, once I reach where I'd like to reach, I'm just going to fall off the bandwagon like so many people have done. I'm going to grow into this thing, but I'm going to try and keep this running thing up again because it was nice when I was doing it. And yeah, COVID was a booger, but we're not going to talk about that because that's in the past. It's yesterday, and it's not what we're dealing with today. We're talking about running. We're talking about fatherhoods. And again, good dads run. Stick with me. I'm super excited to let you know about my most recent project, a devotional for dads called Following Our Father. As Christian dads, we have no better example than our Father in heaven on how to be a dad. As a father reading the scriptures, I cannot help but see how he truly is our Father. So in this devotional, I go through 30 qualities and attributes of God. You can take it one day at a time and knock it out in a month, or you can take the time that you need to absorb who our Father is so that you can be the dad that you're called to be and be the dad that your children need you to be. This is available to you. You can check the description to find the link to get your copy. You can even get a copy for someone else. But this is a resource for you that will bless you. It will impact you as a father, and it will impact your home. So get your copy of Following Our Father. Get it today. So as a dad who is a Christian, when I read the Bible through the eyes of fatherhood, I cannot get myself away from Luke 15. And I know we talk about it often, but it is such a beautiful portrait of fatherhood. And there's so many things that can be extracted from that. There are tons of things that we can pull out from the father of the prodigal in Luke 15. I use plenty of those references, probably 2 or 3 in my devotional that hopefully you have a copy of. If not, you can get one. It's called Following Our Father. It's a devotional for dads. And just to give you a sneak peek on this, every devotion is titled with Our Father is something. So for example, this one is Our Father is proactive. I did not put this one in here, but I probably could have. And I probably could have put a devotional that says Our Father runs, because our Father does run. And I think Luke 15 makes that clear. And it gives us a clear example that we as dads should follow. Again, we're not talking about physical running. If you're out of shape, I'm not here to condemn you or judge you. You don't have to, thank God he's not talking about that. Again, that's not the focus. But we're looking at Luke 15, and there are two scriptures that I want to read, and then I want to explain to you why it is that fathers run, that you as a dad should run, and what I mean. So Luke 15, I'm looking at two verses, verse number 20 and verse number 28. Verse 20 reads, "So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him." Verse 28, "The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him." What I want you to get from this today is that dads run, that good fathers run to their children. This is what I need you to understand. This is what I have to work on. We all need to work on this. We all have our struggles, and there are different philosophies that we have taken in, that we have observed in some cases, that we have heard about in other cases. And I think that those other philosophies are wrong. I think this is a philosophy that we need as dads, that good dads run to their children. So I want you to think about the story in Luke 15. While it's often called the story of the prodigal son, I don't like that because it's not about the prodigal. It's about the father. And I've talked about this before because this is all about Jesus revealing who he is. And the gospel, this is what Luke is trying to do. Gospels were a literary genre. There are other gospels written about other people. Luke's point for his gospel is to get people to see Jesus in a particular way. Personally, I think Luke is trying to get the readers to see that Jesus is king and king like no other. When you look at the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, once he is dead, once he gives up the ghost, Luke is intentional to say that Joseph, a member of the high council, in other words, a Pharisee, goes and gets the body of Jesus and he buries the body of Jesus. But it also includes that when the women saw how Joseph prepared the body, that they left to go and get herbs and spices. Now, there's a reason for that. And if you go to 2 Chronicles chapter 16 and you look at Asa, who was the king of Judah, when he died, it talks about how they buried him as king. His body is wrapped. He's in a tomb that no one else has ever used. And on him, there are herbs and spices. So when the women saw how Joseph was preparing the body of Jesus to be buried, they recognized that he was not burying him as any other man, but that he was preparing his body to be buried as if he were king. Because this is how Joseph saw Jesus, that he was king. Now, I like to throw in that Luke wants you to see that he is king and king like no other because of how Jesus goes on to talk about himself. For example, in Luke 15, he's a king who's not held back by reputation. He's like the dad who will leave his reputation behind to run to everyone else. He did this king thing like nobody else did. So I think this is the point of Luke's gospel. Jesus is king and king like no other. And so Jesus is trying to say, this is who I am. But who I am is a response to the question of why do you go to these people? And the question is asked by the Pharisees. Jesus in Luke 15 is responding to the question of the Pharisees that was not publicly stated to Jesus. So while he is with the people of lesser reputation and speaking to them, he is really answering their question. And so the parable of the father in Luke 15 deals with, in a symbolic form, the people that Jesus was with who were of lesser reputation, and the Pharisees represented by the brother, the older brother, who never left, who did what he was supposed to do. So Jesus is trying to relate to both of the groups while responding to the question of the Pharisees. But what I think is so beautiful is that we often get focused and fixated on the father running to the younger brother who betrayed his father, who said, I wish you were dead. Give me the money that I would get once you kick the bucket. Remember, an inheritance is not given until someone dies. The younger son wished his father dead by asking for the inheritance. And it was way out of line because the older brother should have gotten the inheritance before anybody else. But the younger son jumps the process and makes everyone mad at him. Just really makes a mockery and a mess of everything. And then goes on to make an even bigger mess by the way he lives with the funds that he received from his father. And while we always see how the father runs to him, I think it's important that we also see the fact that when the older brother is angry, it might not say that he ran, but the father went out. The father went to his son. The father did not sit around for his boys to come to him with their issues. The father was waiting, watching, involved enough, present enough to say, something's wrong with my kid. I'm going to go to them. You need to be willing to go to your children, regardless of the circumstance. Good fathers run to their children. He ran to his child who betrayed him. He ran to his child who stayed and did things right. He did not wait for them to come to him with their problems. So let's talk about the idea of betrayal. I think sometimes as fathers, this is not always going to look as it looked in Luke 15. Sometimes this might look more like an argument. Sometimes this might look more like a kid saying, I hate you. Or a kid coming out and saying, well, you do this. And honestly, when kids say that you do this and it's not right, oftentimes it's not that they're wrong. It's just that they're not very respectful in how they do things. And that makes us really mad because we often deal with pride and struggle with ego. And so the fact that somebody would diminish us when we think too highly of ourselves, that's tough. It's very tough, too, when it comes from one who is considered to be the lesser in comparison to us. With dad, we're supposed to be at the top. We're supposed to rule over our house and be the head of everything. And sometimes we let that get to our head. But we get upset in arguments sometimes. When there is an argument in your home, I want you to remember that it's not your child's responsibility to come to you and apologize. Should they? Yes, but only because it's been modeled to them. Because as a father, you're a leader. You are a leader in your home. Leadership is not only encompassed by a title. Because you are dad and because you are leader, that does not mean that there is this inherent reverence that everyone in your house just has. Your children are not going to be born with this reverence for you. Think about how you build respect and establish respect with anybody else. You earn it. You show respect. And then it is reciprocated back to you. If you want to be respected, you come across respectable and respectful. And then you gain and earn respect from other people. This is one of the things that I think we struggle with sometimes with our kids because we just feel like it should be natural for them. And it's not, because they're people too. All of this biblical talk about do this to your neighbor, love your neighbor, treat other people this way. Your kids are people. They fall under that umbrella. Your kids are not going to naturally respect and revere you. This is something that you have to establish. And you'll do it the same way you do it with everybody else. You will first display it to them. And you will act it out to them. And then they will follow your example. So when there is an argument, Do not function with the idea that they will have to come to me and apologize. You need to go to them and lead and show them what an apology looks like after an argument. You need to guide that conversation that happens post-argument so that reconciliation can happen and so that the relationship between you and your child can continue to grow and thrive. You're the leader. You go first. It's a very elementary concept of a leader. You are leading, you are out front, you are going first. But that's so often a component of leadership that we neglect. You go first. If there is an argument in your home, you're the one who runs to your child and you go to them, even if they are the ones who are wrong. If you in any way handle that argument the wrong way, go and apologize for how you handled it. Go and apologize for the misunderstanding that happened. And sometimes this is the case sometimes even with young children. You convey your point, you keep your cool, you have the conversation, and the kid just doesn't understand. They're driven by their emotions. They're driven by their very limited intellect, and they don't get it, and they get frustrated, and then they react. I don't see a problem in apologizing for not communicating in a way that they can understand, because that's our responsibility as dads. We don't speak to them in terms so esoteric to the children that they think it's a different language. We have to get on their level and communicate and deal with them. And if we're not great at that, if we're still working on that, if we struggle with that, there's no shame in apologizing for that. But on the other side of that, if you do act childish in an argument and you are guilty, maybe even more so than them, you don't need to function under the premise of, well, I'm the dad, I can do what I want. Please don't ever have that mindset, because you are literally ripping your family apart. You're going to end up being the dad whose kids say, yeah, I love my dad, but, and then they'll fill in the blank. God, I so desperately want to live this life to the absolute fullest, so that when my children talk to other people about me and even their mom, I want them to say, my parents were great. Our parents loved us so much. They're the best. End of conversation. I don't want them to say, oh yeah, my dad was so great. He did all this cool stuff to help other people, and he was super nice and super funny, but God, I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for you. I want our children to just see us and see the genuine desire that we have to be what they need us to be what God has called us to be. So don't ever function with the idea of, I'm the dad, I can do what I want. It's okay because I'm the dad. No, it's not okay because you are the dad. It is the opposite of your reasoning. Because you are the dad, because you are the leader, it's more so wrong for you. So when there is an argument and you're the one who's guilty, you better run to your children and you better say, I'm sorry. I messed this up. I lost control. I shouldn't have yelled. I didn't make any sense. I was a fool. I acted like the child and you didn't. If there is an argument, if there is a disagreement, if whatever reason you feel wronged in this conversation, you go to your kid to reconcile and to restore and to cause your relationship to grow and thrive. You do that. Hey, if you're a new dad or choosing to embark on a fresh start as a father, I have a gift for you. I wrote a book a while back called Cut the Crap, direct tips for becoming a dad. I don't teach you how to change a diaper. That one's totally on you. But I do talk about 5 elements that you need to focus on as a dad if you want to be the dad your children need you to be. Now, this is completely free. It is yours. There's no strings attached. The only thing that I'd like you to consider is if the book brings value to you as a father, make a contribution by going to fatheringourfuture.com/support. But you don't have to. Again, it is a free gift from me to you. The link is in the description after the end of the episode. Click it, get your copy, and I pray that it helps you. And the other thing, consider the older brother who didn't leave. He stayed. When the father realizes that something is wrong with him, he goes to him too. So I think this plays into observation on our part, being present in our homes. Whenever you observe your children's behavior, maybe they don't have that smile on their face. Maybe they're not playing the way that they typically do. Maybe they're just going to the room and closing the door. Maybe they're shunning themselves and isolating themselves from the family. That's a great moment for you to go to them and to say, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? Did something happen? And if they don't open up, I'm going to just throw this in as a bonus tip. Be there for them. Just be there until they're ready. Do something else to cheer them up. Just be present with them however they need you to be present with them. But in order to do that, you've got to go to them first. I had a conversation with Pastor Johnny Hargrove in the last episode that we did. I think was a very good episode. And he talked about how his father, old school, and this was not uncommon at all. I think that this is still carried probably into my generation. But his father operated with the understanding of if you want to have a relationship with me, you'll reach out to me. And Johnny had a good relationship with his dad. But he shared how at one point he had a conversation, said, Dad, you have a phone too. You can call me too. You can send me a text. You also have the capacity and the ability to do this. He said, and that created some momentary tension between the two of them, but eventually it got resolved. But the point is, that's an old philosophy and an old idea that I think needs to remain in the past, that we need to get rid of. Your kids are not the ones who need to stay in contact with you in order to have a relationship with you. You are their dad now and forever. You're still the leader. You still go first. Fathers run and go to their kids. You need to be the one reaching out. You need to be the one running to them. So in the parable, Jesus talks about a dad with 2 kids at 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. One who left and betrayed him, thought nothing of him, wished him dead, and then acted like a complete buffoon and had no reason to be accepted again. That's one end. And on the other end, you have the brother who stayed, who if anyone could have or should have asked for the inheritance early, it was the older brother, but he didn't. He stayed, he served, he was faithful. That was him. But now he's hurt because of the celebration happening for the knucklehead on this side. And the father runs to both. So I've given you 2 examples. Argument, observation that something just seems wrong, and you go to them. But I'm going to say everything else in the middle of this. Full spectrum. If these are the extremes, then anything else merits you going to your children. You are not supposed to sit around and wait for them to come to you with their issues. Now, let me also say this. This is not to say that you are up in their business all the time. I saw someone post something one time about my kids live in my house. They don't get privacy. They haven't earned it. I'm thinking, well, that's ridiculous. I certainly give privacy to my daughters. I even give privacy to my son. That's a right that people have to some extent. Like I understand. I would want to know if my kids are dabbling into things that they don't need to be dabbling into. I understand that. But no privacy, I think that's a problem. So avoid the extremes. I don't know why people just have to gravitate to one extreme and it's got to be black and white all the time. There's a huge gray area in everything. Stay in the middle. It's a safe space to be in. There are times you probably need to jump to the extremes, but the middle is the safe place to be. So don't be up in your kids' grill all the time trying to figure out, are you okay? Are you okay? Or you're going to be the problem. You're going to be the reason that they're not okay. So don't do that. Be present. Be full of love. Let that be the defining characteristic of your identity as a father. In the same way that John writes about God and says, God is love. God could have been described as so many other things, but John says, God is love. You and I can be described in so many different ways, but let it be said of us by our children that my dad loved me. Let that be the defining characteristic. So operate and function with love. Observe. But when your kids are distressed, when they are in trouble, when they are not feeling or acting the same, don't wait for them to come to you and say, Dad, I have a problem. If you observe that there is something wrong, go to them and say, how can I help you? I want you to know that I'm with you. And I think that is going to be a game changer for you. I think that's what we're supposed to do because our Father runs to us. And if he's the one that we're to emulate, then we got to run to our children too. And again, I could have totally put a devotional in here called Our Father Runs, but I didn't. But I've got plenty of other devotions in here that talk about how our Father comes to us and how our Father is proactive and how our Father is very intentional about watching us. And when we are in need, he comes to us. That's what we're supposed to do as dads. So one more time, I want to remind you that good fathers run, but good fathers run to their children. Let's pray. Jesus, I want to thank you for coming to us. I want to thank you for not being so eaten up by the throne that you couldn't step down and you couldn't come to where we are and you couldn't get on our level and be with us and run to us the way that you did. God, we see what you have done for us and we thank you for it. And what we're asking today as fathers is that we would take upon ourselves this characteristic of running to our children, that when they are in distress, that we would go to them, that when they are confused and confounded, when they are perplexed with life and all the circumstances of adolescence or just maturing, regardless of what age they're at, God, help us to be fathers who are willing and waiting for the opportunity to make that phone call, to knock on that door of the room, to reach out to them and say, why don't you just take a car ride with me? Let's just go up to the store. Let us be fathers that run to our children, that go to them in their time of crisis, that go to them in their time of need, so that in that moment of need, we can be the dad that they need us to be. God, help us to follow your example and help us to display to our children what you do for us and for them. God, help us with this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I'm talking about fathers running to their kids, but I'm going to say one more time, taking care of yourself probably isn't the worst idea. I'm going to try to keep it up myself, but maybe go out and run. If you can't run yet, go for a walk. Just take care of yourself. One of the things that I think is so important, while I'm not a fitness guru and I don't push it on anybody, I think it's very important for us to realize that we get this life one time. Our kids are going to grow up and they're going to grow up so fast, and our boys are going to get strong. And guess what? When they get strong, they're going to want to keep wrestling with us until the day that they can take us down. They're going to keep trying. So stay in shape. Don't let them take you down. Show them who's boss. Let them know that there's something that they'll never have until they have children, and it's called dad strength. Just make it obvious to them and hone in your fitness, hone in your abilities, stay active, exercise, live this life as long as you can to see as much as you can see. My wife and I had a conversation, and I won't tell you what the conversation was, but it led to me saying something along the lines of, I'm 33. I have a 25-year gap between me and my son. If he follows what I did, and 25 years later, he has a kid, I said, I'll get to see my grandchildren. I said, but if I take care of myself and that kid does what me and Frankie did, another 25 years, I said, it gives me the opportunity to see my great grandchildren. I said, that's what I really want to see. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to live beyond 100 because I just tell my wife that all the time, and I can't be wrong, but I cannot wait to get to see what comes from me and all my brokenness. It's the most humbling thing that I think I will ever experience, in seeing the beauty of my children and somehow me having anything to do with that. But at one point in my life, I will see my children have children. And I really want to see my grandchildren have children too, and just see this generational goodness unfold. So take care of yourself. I'm going to take care of myself. Yes, you can take care of yourself spiritually, and you should. And yes, you should get a copy of this devotional, Following Our Father. Take care of yourself mentally, Sudoku, chess, whatever your game of choice is. Just keep this thing ticking. And take care of yourself physically so that you can be around, because you got lots of good advice to share. You're going to have lots of cool stories. And one day, when those little kids are sitting on your knee and you're telling them all about their mommy and daddy, that's going to be a lot of fun. So take care of yourself. So good dads run to their kids, but good dads might also run around the block too. Just keep it in mind. But for now, I want you to know that you're a difference maker, you're a dynasty builder, you're a dad. Go all in on this thing called fatherhood. Embrace it, enjoy the journey. And while on the journey of fatherhood, if you need help, reach out to me. I'm here for you, fatheringourfuture@gmail.com. But for now, I'm done with my rambling about running, not only to your kids, but also for your physical condition. Thank you for being with me. This is Fathering Our Future, and I'm Anthony Vandegrift. I hope you'll join me next time. Hey, one more time, I want to thank you for listening to Fathering Our Future. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, please do so wherever you listen, and consider leaving a nice review, because I would appreciate that. But if you're not connected to Fathering Our Future on social media, you can find it on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and there you're going to get some additional content on a more regular basis that you don't always get here on the podcast. Now, the last thing that I would like to ask of you is that you would consider becoming a financial partner of Fathering Our Future, because dads make a difference, and dads are not disposable. Dads are vital, and they are essential, and they are needed. And the impact that dads make doesn't just reside in the home, but it has a ripple effect that goes to churches and communities and culture. And I'm inviting you to be a part of equipping and empowering and educating dads to be the dad that God has called them to be and that their children need them to be. You can become a financial partner with Fathering Our Future. It can be a one-time contribution, a monthly commitment, but by doing that, you play a direct role in impacting dads. You can check the link in the description below. You can pray about it. You can get on board. And I thank you in advance for becoming a part of Fathering Our Future in a special and a dynamic way. God bless you.